There was a question in the chat box. Are you advocating for mixed income housing, or is housing going up in high opportunity areas that is destined to be monolithic?
So I am a real advocate of mixed income housing. I really like it from a social perspective. And I think it can work for developers in terms of the money. And of course, when you create multi-unit housing, even by itself, forget if it's required to be affordable at a certain level. It still is more affordable than buying a house or renting a house in many of Connecticut's towns. So I think we really need to focus on mixed income housing whenever possible. And I'm not a big fan, and I think, time has shown that really giant, public housing style housing developments like people think of with Cabrini Green, the sort of classic public housing, we know that doesn't work. And so I think we need to steer away from that. On the other hand, even that development in Mount Laurel, which was 140 units, you saw, had no impact on the neighborhood. It was doing a really good thing for lower income families. And I think there could be some room for those kinds of developments in places that are thriving. But what I like about having everything be mixed income is then you can keep doing it. You don't have to sort of say, oh, we're only putting this much housing here and it's because it's 100% deeply affordable. That creates a little pocket of poverty, and so we need to stop. We can just have genuinely mixed income housing everywhere.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else with any more questions for Erin? This is a very complex topic, and there is so much information. So distilling it down to the numbers of slides that you did for this presentation was really yeoman's work. Erin, folks on the call tonight, I'm sure they have the same question, that I do. What is it that we can do tomorrow? Would it be, for the people who are on the call, we have about 30 people on the call. Is it worthwhile for them maybe to write a letter to the editor about some of what we talked about? And we are recording this. This will be, recording will be up on our website, so folks could go through Erin's slides again. Is it worth, do we change hearts and minds by writing letters to the editor, posting on social media? And what are the 3 points, right, to make it simple, that people should hit on to try and change hearts and minds of how we start to desegregate our state, which is truly through housing?
So I think in terms of action, we've hit on a few things. I do think digging into town policies and documents, that doesn't sound sexy or exciting, but it actually is really important. Thinking seriously about starting with a sort of model affordable housing development in your own town that you could use as a launching pad for a really well-organized community outreach campaign that engages faith groups, Rotary clubs. I'm going around, I'm talking to all kinds of groups. I talked to the Brantford Rotary Club a couple of weeks ago. I'm talking to the Republican Town Committee here in Glastonbury in a couple of weeks. Let's keep that conversation going. And in terms of the 3 points, I think what I have found to be persuasive in our work is, and there's a range of people. People come to this with caring about different things. So there are people who care about the social justice point. There are people who are really waking up to that right now. So making that connection between segregation and affordable housing is one piece. I think people who care a lot about sort of the American dream and really trying to create mobility for people who haven't had it is another point, and that all that research by Raj Chede, I have found, has been very influential all around the country. And then I think the last piece is the history piece. And I think particularly what's helpful about the history piece is helping particularly white people like us who live in suburban communities understand that we're sort of inheriting this, and we're not necessarily, while we may be benefiting from what we have inherited, we're not necessarily responsible for what we have for the past, but we are responsible for the future. And now we can really take that knowledge and turn it into action and do something about it in our own towns. So I guess those are 3 points I would share. And the other thing I would love to learn from you guys, if there's time, is what would be helpful to you? What other kind of information would be convincing to, if not you, people you know? I know schools are a big concern. What's going to happen to our schools if this happens? What about environmental concerns? What else are you hearing from friends and neighbors about this? And if you don't know now, I'd love to hear eventually if the conversations continue, but I would love thoughts on that.
Yes, I think education and technology is a big key to helping bridge the gap between the racial divide. And I'd like to learn more on how I could implement technology into schools in lower income areas to help advance their needs. If you have any feedback on that, I would love to hear about it.
So when you say use technology, you mean in terms of, you mean in communities that are struggling in particular?
I grew up in New Canaan. We had a 1-to-1 laptop ratio. And as a result, I think my standard of education is higher than someone in maybe a struggling lower income or minority population school. So I was wondering if you think that I was wondering if you have any ways to get involved in help bridging the gap technology-wise.
I mean, I think there's a whole lot of advocacy, and I don't consider myself an expert on the education piece, but I think there's a whole lot of advocacy that a lot of advocates who focus on education are working on that you could become engaged with. And a lot of that comes back to state resources and how they're allocated to towns to fund schools. So I think that would be, I think you're right. It's really important. It's especially important right now. And that would be a great thing to become involved in.
Erin, this again is such important work and such a complex subject. All right, we've got a question. What proportion of the Corbin, Palmers, and Stop and Shop housing are being designed as low income? I actually can answer that, Kathy. Thank you. According to the Town of Darayen's inclusionary zoning regulation, at least 12% needs to be affordable housing. You could build it on site, you could build it off site, or you could pay in. I do not know what the decision was on Palmer, so I apologize for that. The Stop and Shop, they will be building on-site units, and then the project downtown, what that developer is doing is building housing for people, adults with disabilities, over by East Lane by the Thruway. He did not want to include the adults with disability, the 6 units, in his development downtown, which I think is truly unfortunate. So it's 12% by town ordinance. And then again, as I had mentioned, you have a pay-in option or an off-site development option. After having lived through that ordinance, I certainly have changed my mind about the value of the pay-in and the off-site, because what we've seen in town is that this one developer has not put units on site in downtown developments, which is clearly where you would want to put affordable housing, near jobs, near transportation hubs, with the buses, as well as with the rail station. So that's a real missed opportunity. And it's a real missed opportunity to take people with disabilities and put them near the thruway in the corner of your town. I have another issue with that. Inclusionary zoning, I think about 28 municipalities in the state of Connecticut had that ordinance, which tells a developer, if you build X number of housing units, you need to build Y number of affordable units. Some could have pay-in or off-site development, as we had mentioned here. I hope that's clear. So thank you for that. If there isn't anything else, I know we try to keep these meetings to an hour so that folks could come in, get an education or volunteer and do something, and then get on with their evening. Our next meeting will be the first week of September. We're going to do back to school with Board of Education candidates and the chair of the Board of Ed. Hopefully no special meetings, so we'll get that back on track. But this has been great, and I really want to thank everybody for their interest in this and their advocacy in this important area. Before we go off, Sandra, if you had anything for Aaron, did you want to connect offline? Sandra Fox from the Darien Times.
Sure. What is the best way? Can you hear me? I just unmuted. Okay.
Yes.
What is the best way to get the contact information from the speaker?
I'll just give it to you, and then everyone can have it too. My phone number is just 860-857-6971.
Thank you.
I also put in the chat a link to how to join our coalition. So if you guys are interested in checking that out and attending, we do have a meeting on this coming Tuesday. We'd love to see you.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Do you, what is your email?
It's just ebogs@ctoca.org.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. Enjoy. Don't forget the convention's tonight. Go Kamala. We'll go Dems.
Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Aaron. We'll be in touch. Great. Bye.
Thank you.